Today is National Freedom Day in the USA, and I think it should be around the world. It is always the 1st of February that celebrates the liberation that Dr. Martin Luther King worked so hard for with many of his brothers, both white and coloured. So I'm going to read his speech from August 28, 1963, with a view to understanding that freedom is something we still don't possess. And it's not just about race, it's about maybe you're a wage slave, maybe there are other things that you are enslaved to. Today is about the emancipation of all of us from any form of slavery. He said, "I'm happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beckoning light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro is still not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languishing in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. We have all come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to change racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice ring out for all of God's children. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted citizenship rights. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. And the marvelous new militarism which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers have evidenced by their presence here today that they have come to realize that their destiny is part of our destiny. So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the colour of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day in Alabama, with its vicious racists and its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day, right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls in sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places, plains, and the crooked places will be made straight. And before the Lord will be revealed, and all flesh. So see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the mount with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the genuine discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, We will be able to work together, pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom forever, knowing that we will be free one day. And I say to you today, my friends, let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the mighty Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, apologies if I mispronounced that, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only there, let freedom ring from the Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain in Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill in Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring. And when this happens, when we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last. Possibly the greatest speech ever given there, from 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., August 28th, 1963, apologies, Lincoln Memorial. There's some stuff in your life at the moment, and in my life, which holds us in slavery. Not slavery like these folks had to go through. I wouldn't minimize that in any way, but we're still not free. And indeed, when it comes to racial prejudice, we all know that the world is still not free. And I'm just reminded that we need to hear these speeches. We need to hear these great dreams time and time again. It's almost like every morning your brain needs to be rebooted with what's important, what's valuable, what's a priority for you and for me. Let freedom ring. I hope that stays with you today. Let freedom ring. And I apologize that I'm having trouble speaking today. Let freedom ring. It's also National Get Up Day today. Not in the sort of lazy sense of the word get up, but in the sense of resilience. Get up, dust yourself down, start all over again. So if you've got a story of resilience or a story of breaking through to freedom, I'd love to hear it. Perhaps you'd share in the comments or you'd message me personally. But celebrate today, National Freedom Day. May you feel a new level of freedom today, and may you be an agent of freedom in somebody else's life. One of my ambitions in life is to be the rainbow in somebody else's cloud. Have a great February.